Welcome to the Exam Lab, the site for exam test takers in English. I'm Simon. The Exam Lab helps students prepare a wide range of exams, including IELTS, First, Advanced and Proficiency in the UK, and TOEFL, TOEIC, GMAT, SAT in the US, and many others. Today's video is all about the apostrophe S and how to use it correctly when we write in English. Let's get started. So have a look at the screen. We're talking about the apostrophe S and the 5 big things to know about it if you want to write correctly in English. Here is the first one. You add apostrophe S to a singular noun to make a possessive. So of course we say John's car, Britain's economic policy. Now it's important to note here that even if your noun finishes with S, or even with double S, it makes no difference. You must still add the apostrophe S. So we get the boss's office, the witness's statement, Congress's decision, Paris's history, and you'll notice how we're pronouncing these ones here. Let's look at the last one there. We get Paris, and then we're adding a UZ type sound, Paris's history. Are there any exceptions to this rule? Well, yes. This is a group which is a little bit controversial, but this is what most people will tell you in English, is that if your name is a biblical or a classical name ending in S, then only add the apostrophe, do not add another S. So we would say Socrates' philosophy rather than Socrates' philosophy. In the same way, Jesus' teachings. Now, as I say, there are different opinions on this, and you're not making a mistake in English if you decide to say Jesus' teachings. Really, you'll be guided by what you think sounds right. The majority view in English is that biblical classical names which finish in S, we do not add a further S in the singular. But let's look at one or two other examples where quite clearly usage says this is an exception to the first rule. The United States is one of them. Nobody says the United States says. No. You say the United States diplomatic personnel. Same thing, here's another one, almost as famous as the United States, McDonald's. Once again, it's a company name, it finishes in S. It is always the case that people leave it as it is. They add the apostrophe, McDonald's special meal deals. You see, this is strange because we have the apostrophe, which is part of the name, McDonald's, McDonald apostrophe S, and then we still need the apostrophe afterwards, McDonald's special meal deals. And then a final exception here, this word sake in English. This is a well-known expression in English, for goodness sake. We often say it with a bit of emphasis, for goodness sake. Sake seems, for some odd reason, to command this in English, that although goodness is a singular noun finishing in S, so it should be like rule 1, we don't do that. Here's the second point. I have a plural noun ending in S, and I want to make it a possessive. Then I simply add the apostrophe. So here's a plural noun, the bosses. I want to say the cars of the bosses. I say the bosses' cars. So the difference between rule 1, remember rule 1, we were talking about a singular noun, and now we're talking about a plural noun. So plural noun ending in S, just add the apostrophe S. My parents' house, my friend's dog, whatever. And of course, really in English, most plural nouns end in S. That is the standard plural marker in English. But there are some exceptions to the rule. We have some plurals which are irregular, which do not end in an S. And if they don't end in an S, if they are irregular plurals which do not end in S, we must add apostrophe S. Here are some famous ones. The children. So children is obviously plural, but it doesn't end in S, so we must add apostrophe S. The children's toys. The bacteria's origins. Bacteria is a plural. The singular is a bacterium. So two bacteria, the bacteria's origins. Here's the word men, obviously one man, two men, the men's restrooms. So regular plural nouns end in S, just add the apostrophe. Irregular plurals which do not end in S, you must add apostrophe S. Right, here's point number 3. We're looking now at family names. So again, let's look and see what normally happens in English. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here is the family name, Smith. And if we want to talk about them as a plural, we say the Smiths. The Smiths live next door to me. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I spoke to the Johnsons yesterday. Okay, so we're going to add an S to make the plural. But what happens if the family name already finishes with an S? Well, then we must add ES. So look at this. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that is the normal name. Plural, the Joneses, the Waleses. Again, this pronunciation of a us after the S. The Joneses, the Waleses. And in British English, we have an expression to keep up with the Joneses. And that means that you copy your neighbour. Your neighbour buys a new electric vehicle, you decide you better buy one too. You try to imitate or copy that person's lifestyle or possessions. So if we want to make a possessive here, there's no problem because you're simply you already have a plural, whether it's like the Smiths or whether it's like the Joneses. You have a plural, there's an S, they are the plural. So you follow the basic rule in point 2. The Smiths' house, the Joneses' house. And look at this one here. I met the Lloyds at a party at the Smiths. There's no apostrophe here. These are plural people. There is an apostrophe here at the house of the Smiths, at the Smiths. So now point 4. What do we do when we want to make a possessive, but we have 2 people involved? So let's contrast sentence A and sentence B. Here is sentence A. That is John and Mary's house. Sentence B, Scotland's and England's weather are very different. Perhaps you can see the difference immediately. John does not have an apostrophe, the first one. Mary does. But in sentence B, apostrophe and apostrophe. So what's happening here is that we're looking at the word that they refer to, the house. In sentence A, there is one house only, which is shared by 2 people. We put the apostrophe only with the second person, the person nearest to the object. But in sentence 2, Scotland's and England's weather, we don't have one weather for both. We're saying that they are different. They're 2 different weather systems which are there. So Scotland's weather and England's weather are very different. So we need the apostrophe for both the first and for the second item. Look at a couple of other examples below. I love Shakespeare's and Tolstoy's characters. They are all fictional characters, but they are different. But this one here is this is just a film, one film. The film describes Harry and Sally's growing sexual attraction. There's a film called When Harry Met Sally, if you haven't yet seen it. And it is one characteristic shared by both people. Now let's look at a couple of idiomatic issues which arise with the apostrophe. So what about if it's this double possessive you see in English? You've probably heard English people saying, a friend of mine, not a friend of me. A friend of my mother's, apostrophe S, not a friend of my mother. So are English natives making a mistake when they have this double possessive, the of and the second possessive, which is here? Is it correct? Yes, it is. It's absolutely correct. It's 100% idiomatic, 100% correct. And sometimes we actually need it. Look at the difference here between A and B. He found a bone of the dog's. This bone belongs to the dog. It's something the dog plays with. Sentence B, he found a bone of the dog. There's nothing after dog. Unfortunately here, the dog is dead and this bone is part of the skeleton of the dog. So we actually have a difference of meaning in A and B. It's a useful and absolutely correct idiomatic use. And what about the second one there with expressions of time and money? Well, again, you've probably seen this. 30 days, notice, it's a plural. 5 years, IT experience, it's a plural. $30 worth of clothes. So we're putting the apostrophe S after the plural mention of time and money. So these are two absolutely necessary, useful, valid, idiomatic uses of the apostrophe in English. Okay, your turn now. We've put together a mini quiz. You're going to try and use the word italicized in brackets, making any adjustments necessary when you put it in here. And we will put up the answers in the comments below later on. So good luck with that. And if you want to get more English videos from the Exam Lab, just click subscribe. Our regular weekly videos cover key grammar and vocabulary tips to help you improve in English. Bye for now.